It was a cold Thursday morning in November, and the usual holiday season chaos had already begun settling in. The sun pushed its way through the thick gray clouds, casting a soft glow over the streets of Washington, D.C., but inside Barack and Michelle Obama's home, things carried a completely different energy. The house held a warmth that went far beyond whatever was coming from the oven. This Thanksgiving was not shaping up to be anything like the ones they were used to. Not at all. Something unexpected was unfolding this year, and you're not going to believe what happened next. For the first time in decades, the Obama family gathered not simply for a traditional holiday meal, but for something far more intimate and personal. This Thanksgiving, they were preparing to honor a moment that had absolutely nothing to do with politics, cameras, speeches, or the spotlight. Barack and Michelle were getting ready to welcome a new member into the family, but here's the twist. They weren't just celebrating becoming grandparents. They were stepping into an experience they never imagined would arrive so soon. It was Malia, their eldest daughter, who showed up with a surprise of her own. She had quietly stepped into motherhood, and the world had no idea about the shift it was about to create. In the weeks leading up to the holiday, Malia had slipped gracefully out of the public eye, embracing her new role as a mother so quietly that even her closest friends barely realized what had changed. But now, on this crisp November morning, everything felt different. Malia's baby girl was about to steal the spotlight, and the whole family couldn't stop smiling.
Barack, usually the calm, composed presence with years of leadership behind him, found himself in a completely unfamiliar emotional space. Holding his granddaughter for the very first time wasn't just joyful. It was a full emotional awakening. The moment he cradled her tiny body, the rest of the world seemed to fade out. He had faced some of the planet's most serious crises, but this was something else entirely. When the baby's tiny hand wrapped around his finger, something shifted deep inside him. He couldn't stop staring at her with an expression he hadn't worn in years, a look of pure awe. "How did we get here?" he whispered under his breath. A tear started forming, but he brushed it away quickly, pretending he wasn't moved. Yet everyone around him saw right through it. The strong, unshakable man who had stood firm before presidents and world leaders had just been completely undone by a newborn's touch. Michelle, meanwhile, was experiencing her own whirlwind of emotions. She had always been the heart of the family, guiding her daughters with steady, loving firmness. But now, watching her oldest cradle her own child, something deeper bloomed inside her, a gentle, quiet joy she hadn't felt in years. She sat softly beside the baby's crib, running her fingertips along the cotton blanket. "I remember when you were this small," she murmured, her voice almost too soft to hear. A bittersweet smile spread across her face as she looked over at Malia, her baby girl, now a mother. But what made this moment even more fascinating was the uncertainty of what this next chapter would hold. Malia, always the one to guard her privacy fiercely, had stepped into motherhood without a hint of public attention. No big baby shower, no media frenzy, no flashing cameras. It was as if she had created an entire world for herself where this life-changing moment could unfold without the pressure of the public. Watching her every move, she had always been the quieter one, the strong, independent daughter of the former president. But stepping into motherhood brought a new kind of calm to her. And let me tell you, seeing Malia adjust to this role so confidently yet so softly was nothing short of captivating. As the hours rolled by, the weight of everything slowly began to settle in. This day was no longer just about turkey and stuffing. It had turned into a transition, the symbolic passing of a torch from one generation to the next. The family stood united not only by their shared history, but also by the promise of what lay ahead. The baby, completely unaware of the legacy she was stepping into, was already pulling the family closer in ways no one could have seen coming. And here's where things get truly interesting. No one could have predicted how this tiny newborn would completely shift the dynamics within the Obama household. Destiny had taken a sharp turn, and none of them were ready for how this Thanksgiving would reshape their world. As the day kept unfolding, the Obamas slowly settled into an entirely new rhythm. There was a clear shift in the atmosphere. Barack, the man who had once stood before the most powerful leaders on the planet, now found himself simply holding his granddaughter, staring at her with pure wonder. The confidence he had built from years of navigating global challenges dissolved as he gently rocked her in his arms. He hummed an old lullaby, one he used to sing to Malia and Sasha during their earliest years. It felt strange for Barack. He was used to speeches, cameras, and pressure, but now, with this tiny little human resting against him, it was as if the entire world had stopped. His mind wasn't full of policies, decisions, or crises. It was just the baby, calm, innocent, nestled in his arms, and that single moment of holding her gave him a sense of fulfillment deeper than any political victory he had ever experienced. Michelle, too, found herself quietly overwhelmed by the significance of it all. Raising Malia and Sasha had come with its own battles and triumphs, but seeing her daughter step into motherhood stirred a peaceful, gentle joy inside her. She watched Malia care for her newborn with the same natural ease she once used to care for her little girls. A small box of keepsakes, a few faded baby clothes, and a tiny pair of socks sat next to Michelle. She opened it slowly. "These were yours, Malia," she whispered softly, lifting the tiny pink socks. "And now they belong to her." The realization hit Michelle with force. This was time passing. This was tradition continuing. The next generation had already arrived. She wasn't just a mother anymore, she was now a grandmother watching another chapter begin right in front of her. She couldn't help wondering what this new little life would grow into. Knowing she and Barack had already done their part in shaping the world she was born into. Sasha, always the creative, free-spirited one, couldn't stop smiling. It wasn't only the excitement of becoming an aunt. It was her own transformation. For years she'd been known as the younger sister, the one walking in Malia's quieter footsteps. But now, she was Aunt Sasha, and with that came a fresh sense of purpose as she gazed lovingly down at her niece. There was something different in her eyes that day. Sasha had always been the one who brought the art, the music, and the energy into every family gathering. But today, she carried a new kind of joy, one that came from the simplest moment, holding her niece close and whispering, "I'm going to be the cool aunt." Those words carried more than just fun. They held a promise of love, guidance, and unwavering support. Sasha had discovered her place, and it was in this new role, one she never saw coming but embraced with her whole heart. By the time dinner was finally served, the house was filled with the familiar smells of roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, and Michelle's unforgettable sweet potato casserole. But even with all that food on the table, it was the baby who stole the spotlight. No one cared much for the mashed potatoes or the pie. The tiny bassinet tucked beside Michelle's chair had quietly become the center of the entire family's world. Barack and Michelle took turns holding their granddaughter throughout the meal, their faces soft with smiles as they looked down at her. It wasn't about the holiday traditions anymore. It was about what was resting in that small bassinet beside them. A new life, a new chapter. Barack looked around at his family, then back at the baby, and gently asked everyone to share what they were grateful for. The room grew still as each person reflected on the year behind them. Sasha spoke first, her voice steady yet thick with emotion. "I'm thankful for new beginnings," she said, her gaze lingering on the baby, "and for the little girl who made me an aunt." A quiet pause followed, everyone feeling the truth of it. This Thanksgiving wasn't like any they had ever shared. It was defined by the arrival of a new generation. Michelle's turn came next. She spoke with her usual calm warmth. "I'm thankful for family, for health, and for watching my daughters grow into the women they are today," she said, a small smile forming on her lips. Her eyes met Barack's, and without exchanging another word, they both understood. This moment was the peak of everything they had built as parents and now as grandparents. When Barack spoke, he looked down at his granddaughter with a tenderness none of them had quite seen from him before. "I'm thankful for the chance to see the world through new eyes," he said softly. "Her eyes. I get to see the future through her." Finally, Malia wiped away a tear and whispered, "I'm thankful for love, for support, for my family, and for the tiny person who changed my entire world." Her voice trembled just slightly, but the depth of emotion behind it was unmistakable. As evening settled, the Obamas gathered in the living room. Warmth from the fireplace filled the space, and soft jazz, the kind Barack had always loved, drifted through the room. But as everyone settled into their places, there was something undeniably different about this gathering. This wasn't just another cozy family evening. It felt like a moment suspended in time. The baby, now asleep in Barack's arms, became the quiet center of everything. Even in her sleep, she seemed to hold the room together in a way none of them could have predicted. Barack, still holding her, glanced around at his family. Michelle sat beside him, her hand resting gently on his shoulder, her eyes glowing with pride. It wasn't just about them anymore. It was about everything they had built and everything they were now handing over to this new generation. He looked over at Malia, who watched them with a serene smile. It wasn't the typical confidence he had always seen in her, it was something deeper. A kind of peaceful acceptance that came from knowing her daughter was the future.